I was arrested for jaywalking. I was guilty. I broke the law, there's no doubt about that. I was in a hurry. I was working. I was racing to make it to a meeting, wooing new clients. You know the drill. Time is money, that's the drill, and I was running late. So like a miscreant child in penmanship, I went outside the lines. I strayed beyond the permissible boundaries, and I was accosted. Order was preserved. Thanks to my apprehension and subsequent detention, I missed the meeting, all of it. The clients, the wooing, the money, the deal. Yeah, they made the deal without me. That agitated me perhaps more than it should have in the heat of the moment. And overheated, burning, I may have compounded my problem by indicating my sincere displeasure with the arresting officer, asking him if he didn't have anything better to do, telling him how authentic his badge and gun appeared, asking whether a collar of a desperate felon like me might win him a promotion to a real police assignment, like writing speeding tickets. I was not much better behaved in court. It did seem to me that the overburdened criminal justice system might have business elsewhere, with its plethora of murderers, pimps, rapists, thieves, and pushers that I hear about all the time. I questioned, as a taxpayer, if my money was being well spent, and I wondered aloud about the definition of a civil servant. I insisted on defending myself, wearing a blindfold, in imitation of justice. The local media eagerly seized on that theatrical gesture and transmitted it faithfully, although some interpretations went astray, describing me as a man prepared to face the firing squad. I pleaded not guilty to the offense and refused to pay my fine, invoking principle over law. For these pains I was held in contempt of court, a charge with which I heartily agreed, and I was sentenced to 30 days in jail plus a fine of $1,000 and court costs. The public was watching this case. By this time I was a local talk show staple, and there was some sentiment in my favor, so the judge, in a keen display of magnanimity and exquisite political horse sense, went easy on me. The fine was suspended, and because the jails were overcrowded, no doubt with heinous sociopaths who had eaten with the wrong fork or ordered red wine with fish, I was ordered to spend 3 days in house arrest under my own recognizance. I felt like one martyred by the law, a modern, domesticated Thoreau. They called this kind of confinement day camp, but I was not a happy camper. Time was not healing my wound. I heard from my friends, calls of solace and consolation. Think positive, said one. This is your chance to finally learn a trade. I'm calling to order my vanity plates, said another. Such dear witty pals. I would have disconnected the phone, but it was my lifeline, actually my leash. I had to wear an electronic bracelet attached to my wrist, the modern leg iron. It was connected to a device they rigged into the phone. If the offender, me, wandered more than 150 feet from that sensor, an alarm would go off, and I would be considered an escapee. I measured my distance as well. I felt I had made my statement. I had no desire to attract further judicial attention, much less an APB. Scapegoat? Okay. Sacrificial lamb? Never. Luckily, our kitchen telephone was attached to its jack by a long wire. Stretching this to its fullest extent, I was able to set the phone by the back door, and in this way play lawful catch with my son. We called this my exercise period. Further supervision, though not strictly needed nor required, was provided by the acting warden, formerly my wife. She volunteered for the post, a bit too eagerly, I thought, and she took her new job seriously. The punishment shall fit the crime, she declared. Crime, I said? Jaywalking? A violation of the social contract, she said. A technicality, I insisted, with no victim but me. You broke the law, she thundered like someone out of the Old Testament. I had never seen this side of her before. She suspended conjugal visitation rights until the end of my sentence, banishing me to the guest room. She limited me to 1 hour of TV viewing, including the news, per day, and this on an old black and white set with no antenna that she located in the basement. She decided that I should not wear everyday clothes, but should dress for my part in prison fatigues. She dug out a pair of pea green doctor's pajamas that I borrowed from the hospital when my son was born. I used them for painting. I told her okay I'd wear them, but not that gauze bonnet. The acting warden was also in charge of meals, and in her estimation a lawbreaker should not eat like a king. The 3-day plan for dinner called for ham and peas in a gooey white sauce on day 1, ham, carrots, and peas in a gooey beige sauce on toast on day 2, and ham, carrots, green beans, and peas in a gooey gray sauce on toast day 3. The acting warden, taking an interest in my rehabilitation, offered to pay me 25 cents an hour if I would do the ironing. I tried, but after 2 shirts she reassessed my learning curve and said my assignment had been changed and she would pay me 10 cents an hour not to iron anymore. I was put on dusting detail. I decided to do some writing in my spare time. I had heard many famous volumes had been penned in prison. The pen, you see, both the cage and the instrument of freedom. Aha! Using my own story, I would address the fundamental condition of man: liberty, sovereignty, order, law, and repression. After a furious, promising start, however, my autobiography bogged down on page 4 when I couldn't remember the name of the little girl who sat in front of me in the 3rd grade. She played a pivotal role in an early shaping incident, my first trip to the principal's office, and I simply could not leave her out, and since it was a true account, I felt obliged to record her name correctly. The best I could do was Karen something, but it could have been Rachel, and this was an unworthy approximation which stalled my inspiration. Stumped, I decided it might be wiser and more timely if I wrote searing correspondence concerning justice and injustice to my friends and then collected them as the complete and unexpurgated letters from house arrest. It was energizing for a while, but you'd be surprised how fast you run out of friends and searing things to say. I found that I was repeating myself in the 2nd letter. That cast a pall on the idea of a collection, I discovered, I'm afraid, that as an imprisoned writer, I am no Bunyan, Boethius, Wilde, or Dr. King. I'm not even Eldridge Cleaver. Then it hit me. I should use my time to argue my case, become a jailhouse lawyer, a heroic gadfly, nipping at the flanks of the mighty system. Promptly I began a legal treatise, Jaywalking and its impact on public safety and the moral fabric of urban life. My mind was bubbling with ideas. I felt I could in some small way change the world. But the bubbles soon burst, and the world proved resistant to change, at least by me.